health is your real wealth. That's what we talk about. So even like the Mayweather boxing fitness gyms that I have, around the country as well as around the world, we just truly believe in health is your wealth. We want you working out. I mean, we're nobody's going to be here forever, but while we're here, we only have one body, we only have one temple, so we have to take care of our bodies, and that's what I'm doing. If I'm not going to invest in anything, I'm going to invest in myself. Health is your real wealth, so I got to make sure that I'm staying in good condition, in good shape.
Go to Amazon now. Get the generational health curriculum for you and your family.
Peace to the family. This is Abdul Ali, candidate for U.S. House District 12 here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Let's just be real, folks. The Democrats have destroyed our major cities. Their policies have made us less safe. They've given us less economic opportunity, and they've provided less educational opportunities for our children. And that's why I'm running for Congress, because I know what it takes to improve these issues. I've got great working relationships already in D.C. I've spent the last 10 years of my life building my political resume so that one of us, somebody who thinks like we do, could get into D.C. and make a difference. I want you to visit aliforcongress.com to find out more about my campaign. The Democrats have already done enough, and now they're putting illegal aliens in front of people like you and me, folks whose ancestors built this country and made it what it is today. So again, I'm asking you to support me in my run for U.S. House District 12 here in North Carolina. You don't have to live in North Carolina to support, because what happens in Congress affects the entire country. So again, it's aliforcongress.com. I hope to have your support. Peace.
My name is Minister Inky. I am the naturopathic doctor and the spokesman for the Melanin vs. Diabetes Ministry. Every time you go to the supermarket without the electrician grocery shopping list, it's like putting a loaded gun to your head. Stop playing Russian roulette with your life. Help us make America great again. Learn how to save time. Learn how to save money with the electrician grocery shopping list on Amazon now. Go to Amazon now. The life you save may be your own. Hey, you know what? I just take this very seriously. I just take it very seriously in terms of what it is that we're trying to do. I would say for you, Jerry, I would say, I would say for you, and please, definitely, people out there, definitely the cash apps are needed. I'm definitely hard at work, going to sleep late, waking up early. So definitely Cash App, $ Minister Inky. We need the support. Make sure you guys join the Patreon. If you're wondering about where all the disappearing videos are going, like this is episode 10 of Time Equals Money, right? The generational health series. They're going to the Patreon, right? So definitely join the Patreon. The missing videos are on the Patreon, and then there are a lot of videos that only, they're exclusively Patreon members. So definitely go there. But to speak to what you're saying, Jerry, I'm gonna be honest. It's a collection of books. You got to really dig into the series. And it's still early. I know it seems like it's not, to start, just reading book one, when we're probably at, I don't know, we in the 40s or the 50s somewhere, but, yeah, I would say definitely start with Melanin versus Diabetes, book one. Like, that's going to lay out the framework for everything. Start with Melanin versus Diabetes, book one. We speak, I'm not going to say exclusively, but we speak mostly on the energy system of the body. How the energy system of the body. Bright ass light in my face. How the energy system of the body kind of works, integrated through, the mitochondrial system and the pigment system and the hormone, the endocrine system. But, speaking to the nuances of the energy system, a lot of people, we talk about diabetes and we almost remove diabetes from real life. Diabetes is a disease, if you simplify it, it's about energy, right? That's what the problem is. It's an energy thing. We use carbohydrates, sugars, to produce energy, right? And if we can't get those carbohydrates to be properly metabolized, we have problems. The whole entire body kind of goes haywire because everything needs energy in your body to run smoothly. So everything gets crazy. The body does have multiple sources of energy it can pull from, but the base, the foundation is plant material, carbohydrates, right? Photosynthesis. So we kind of start there, and then as we continue to elaborate in the series, we get more and more nuanced as the books go on. We get more and more nuanced as the books go on. So, to just jump maybe specifically to, the books that highlight what's going on with the circulatory system or the heart, you'll miss a lot. You'll miss a lot. So I would definitely start with Melanin versus Diabetes, book one, if I don't have any of the books in the series yet. Start there and just walk your way up. Melanin versus Diabetes, book two, book three, book four, Race Hustlers series. And then from the Race Hustler series, I would start on the Comedic Science series. And then, Comedic Science series will take you a little bit of time to work your way through. But then from there, obviously, the conversation we're having now is the generational health, right? And even the generational health series builds on everything else that we've been doing so far in terms of obviously genetics, right? Speaking to genetics, speaking to chemistry, biochemistry, how chemistry provides the foundation of understanding for biochemistry, food, nutrition, anatomy, physics, right? Physics, physics is the fakest. Physics is the fakest. If you say physics is fake science, you almost immediately have to turn in your credibility card, right? But if you pry, right? If you pry at physics, it falls apart. It falls apart. So over the years, academia has had to do a lot. They've had to invest a lot of time and money in patching, patching up physics as the master science, because it's not. And we have to start teaching our children, because there are no really successful people in any field that can attribute what they learned to what they got in school. All of the really successful, the great, musicians, athletes, scholars, inventors, it was homeschool, or not necessarily homeschool in the sense that they did not go to school, but it was what they got at home. It was what they got before school, after school, around school. It was all of those things that made them, incredible. And when you look at the global health crisis for brown and black people, I mean, there's a global health crisis, period, because there's a lack of information. But for brown and black people, there's a historic blackout. And now, to fill that void, they're trying to steal the narrative. They're trying to steal our narrative. And we personally have invested a lot of time and money in creating that narrative. So, we have to teach our babies. We have to teach our own, especially if we understand the uniqueness, of people. Then we realize that not only is it up to us to teach our babies about us, it's up to us to fund the research. It's up to us to consume the research. It's up to us to study this stuff. We have to learn it ourselves. We have to put this in our blood, in our DNA, so we can pass it down. That's the whole thing with generational health. So all those things are included in this new series, but the new series is about spanning the generation gap. You know, it's about bringing the parents and the babies back together again, getting everybody on one accord. Because that's, at the end of the day, that's the divisiveness that really matters, right? Everybody talks about unity. That's fake. Nobody needs that kind of, like, we don't need fake unity. The unity that we need is between parents and their babies, right? Parents and their babies, and not parents and their children, but parents and their babies, right? You need to be unified with your babies until they get about 15, 16, you know, and they start to, you know, and at that point, you just need to be supportive. You still need to be kind of tied. You need to be tied to them, but just supportive. If they need you, you're there. But, you know, they trying to figure out how to fly, you know, and you got to let them fly, you know. But from zero, you know, from birth, you know, through those developmental years, it's important that we develop them. You know, it's important that we develop them. You know, a lot of people don't realize the significance of, you know, who's the first person that your baby saw? Right? Who's the first person that your baby saw? That's a very powerful image. That's a very powerful image. You know, you have a lot of people that have raised hell, pun intended, about the idea of black churches having a white Jesus, right? And again, this is why I'm always, you know, I'm not popular, and I'm always, you know, controversial in most circles, because I always see the thing that people miss. That's just how my mind works. So for me, when people are saying, you know, why does, you know, why all these black churches got white Jesuses, and people are getting fired up about that, in my mind, I'm going, the answer is simple. The reason why all these black churches got white Jesus pictures in there is because all these babies, all these black babies, when they were born, the first face that they saw was a white person. When they came into this world, it was a white face that brought them into this world. That's cool if it's a white baby, but that's a unique experience to black Americans. That doesn't happen in Africa. Most of the babies born in Africa, the first faces they see are black Africans. Obviously, white folks, the most faced, as soon as their babies are born, they see a white person. Chinese people, most Chinese babies, when they're born in China, they see, you know, Chinese people. Right? Brazilians, they see, you know, like, we have a unique experience here where, you know, we're a part of the foundational fabric of society, but, you know, we have to acclimate to the fact that we're only functionally less than 10% of the population. And that works in every space except for genetics. It works in every space except for genetics, because it leaves us vulnerable, and the statistics don't lie. You know, we have the worst end of the statistics when it comes to almost every form, you know, every disease metric you wanna look at. And the reason is because we're different. It's not that hard to understand. You know, we have different bodies. And I get into the smallest argument, well, the simplest arguments to me, because they're important. I'm passionate about them, but I realize the brainwashing is thick. You know, people have been sold because, you know, I don't want to say brainwashing, but we've had a lot of leaders, and we continue to have a lot of leaders that are not educated scientifically. And because we think that a person that's great in one area is great in every area, you know, we follow what Martin Luther King said or Malcolm X said or this person or that person, and we don't realize that they may have known what they were talking about in a lot of spaces, but once they started to cross into certain places to, cross certain boundaries to prove certain points, it's just like an argument. When you're in an argument, a lot of times you overshoot your communication because the argumentative space is so difficult to communicate. You add a lot more sauce than it needs, than what you would have, if it was a fair space, you could have just said what you were saying, it would have been received. But this idea that all men are created equal, and we had to drill that in, and fight for civil rights, and we're all humans and blah blah blah. Like, a lot of people have taken those ideas and ran with them. Oh, we're all human, we're all the same. No, we're not. We're just not. We're not all the same, right? And when you look around, it's so easy to see that we're not all the same. Like, some people are 7 feet tall. Why would we? Why would? Like, I don't understand it. Some people are very white. Some people are very black. Some people have eyes like, my son Caleb, he can't escape it. Everybody asks him immediately, are you, what's your nationality? What's your nationality? Even sometimes Chase, but Caleb is like, he got the Asian, he got the Asian eyes really bad. I have a recessive gene for that from my dad's side, and his mom has I don't know, her gene may be kind of dominant for that, or she may have a recessive gene for that. But whatever the case may be, he got it from both sides. You know what I'm saying? So none of his brothers and sisters necessarily have that, but on my dad's side, they have that. And on his mom's side, they have that. So, but I mean, we got to speak to these things. We got to speak to the differences that are holding us back and the differences that are pushing us forward. And, it's up to us to really do this. And it has to be in-house. It has to be an in-house conversation. It's not like we're keeping a secret, because everybody could benefit from this information. Period. No matter what walk of life you are, you have to realize you're unique, and you need to understand, you need to learn about this. You need to talk to your kids about it, because a lot of times, depression and suicide and other it comes from, kids sometimes feeling like they're alone. They're so different that nobody understands. And so we really need to start to have these conversations, but it comes from building on the truth. It comes from building on the truth. And we can't really do that without some degree of science understanding, right? Just basic stuff like what are atoms, right? What are atoms? If you answer that question, right? If you answer like 3 questions in a row about the most basic fundamental aspects of science, of reality itself, physics fall apart. And I'm not saying that physics is inaccurate, right? Because obviously we've made great progress with physics as, if not the backbone, but, foundational cornerstone of what we consider science to be. But right away, you start to see that there's some other stuff where, it's not really
right? So we go, what is it that we can see and touch all around us? We go, oh yeah, everything is made out of matter. Okay, cool. So everything that we, in our world, this is all matter, right? People are made out of matter, concrete, dirt, plants, rubber. Everything around us is matter, right? Okay, cool. So this is all solid reality, right? Yeah. Okay. What are atoms made out of? So if matter is solid and atoms are the building blocks of matter, but atoms are not solid. Atoms are just made of pure energy. And not even just pure energy, but the relationships of pure energy, right? Because that's what really chemistry is about, relationships. And so we have these conversations. This is the way I've always talked about science with my kids, right? And I think it's easier, right? When it's not necessarily in story form, but you add some degree of anthropomorphization to it because it makes it more palatable and more realistic and easier to remember. It's almost like turning the entire conversation into a mnemonic device. So if you realize, okay, it's about relationships, you can begin to start talking about chemistry and society at the same time, right? Because that's what it is. That's what it is. It's relationships, right? The atom, if we start with hydrogen, right? The atom is about the relationship between one electron and one proton, right? One electron, one proton, right? That's it. There's no neutrons in an atom. So, if you realize an atom is just a relationship between an electron and a proton, you can not only go in a lot of different directions, right? Because we could talk about attraction, but we can also talk about, or plant the seed anyway, to talk later on about chemical reactions, right? And bonding, right? You can walk from there. You can walk from hydrogen, that relationship between an electron and a proton, all the way up to acid and alkaline, right? Free radicals and antioxidants. Like you can walk all the way up from that, just that one basic understanding, because largely electron donors, right? Electron donors and proton acceptors, those are going to be your alkalines or bases, and then your electron acceptors and proton donors, those are going to be your acids. So even the description of what an acid, alkaline, base, those things are based on electron, proton, which is all there is in hydrogen, right? Our basic food source, photosynthesis, is about doing what? Adding hydrogen to carbon. And that's what a carbohydrate is, hydrated carbons, right? So, it's just a matter of looking at it from a different way and then being able to communicate it and building on top of that. So we don't have children that don't really know much about themselves, trying to figure that out on Netflix, but then also being able to stop this epidemic of premature death, right? The lifespan of a white woman is close to 80 years old. The lifespan of a white man is somewhere around his early 70s. Somewhere around the same as a black woman, right? But a black man is way less. Is in his 60s, right? And then health span is 15 years shy of that. So the health span of a white woman is somewhere in her early 60s. The health span of a black man is in his early 50s, right? So it's 2024 and pharmaceutical companies are still expecting you to become a zombie by 50. If you make it that long. If you make it that long, right? Because a lot of us need, we need other medications starting in our 30s, and then some of us are medicated from the time we're children in elementary school with ADD, ADHD, autism, and just asthmas and allergies, and so I realized the need for these intergenerational conversations, parents to children, and then you got to realize that you are a child. So this is not only about you as a parent having these conversations with your children, but this may also be about you as a child having these conversations with your parent, right? Because your parents are from they don't really have this information, that your parents are lost. A lot of us, our parents are lost. They don't know what to do. Like my mom is, I done put a lot of work into my mom, and she's still, I tell people this story all the time when my mom was claiming she was eating vegan, and we argue back and forth. And she's like, look, I'm telling you what I eat. I eat them greens. I have me little shrimps and some fish, and, and that's it. I had a watermelon you talking about, and this, and, I've been vegan for a long time. And I'm like, and that's a lot. I had to do that's been over a decade of me, and that's how far we've come. You know what I'm saying? So having a blueprint, to simplify a lot of this information and really be able to sit down, speak to our children as parents, and then speak to our parents as children, we have to have these conversations. We have to. Back to school is coming. What are we going to do? Another year of complaining that the schools aren't teaching us blah, blah, blah. Another year of how long have we been, schools don't teach us this and that. The schools don't teach us this and that. And we're going to have the politicians say, you're going to do something in the school. I mean, politicians have been saying they're going to do something about the educational system since I was in kindergarten, because they know parents want to hear that shit. But in reality, the parents is just mostly lazy and overall uneducated. Mostly lazy, but the ones that are motivated don't have the information. at their fingertips. And they may get some information because now people are online looking around, but they don't know how to start these conversations or communicate them in a meaningful way. They'll tell their children some stuff and their children will go to school and get in trouble, as opposed to being able to have these conversations at home with your child and then have your child go to school and be advanced. Have your middle school child or your elementary school child even advanced, because, you know, a large part of schooling is vocabulary. So we've made sure that there are, you know, half of the 90,000 words that you got to learn going through kindergarten to 12th grade. Half of that vocabulary is science. Half of that vocabulary is science. You know, whether it's technology, engineering, computers, biology, biochemistry, you know, geology, you know, geography, like half of that is science, right? So we need to have that, right? But then also, you know, like I said, anyway, getting back to the major point is we're dying. We're dying. You know, like, if I put the title in the video as Math Hoffa, you know, Math Hoffa cheated on his wife and beat up his wife, you know, it's 2,000 people waiting to hear that. If I put, you know, Hassan Campbell exposed in the title, it's 2,000 people waiting to hear that. You know, polite, you know, it's 2,000 people, like, it's 2,000 people ready to go live for that conversation. But in reality, right, nothing that these people do in their personal life is going to affect your life. What Sanetta has going on is not going to affect your life. Hassan Campbell, Math Hoffa, any of these internet personalities that people, you know, Tasha K exposed, or Tasha K exposes such and such, like the tea, you know, sipping that type of tea. What is it? You know, all of the people sipping that tea are on medication. These are facts. All of those people, you know, are on medication or self-medicating, hiding from the fact that they need medication. These are certified facts. A lot of their kids are crawling up the walls. Like, these are facts. But if we talk about diabetes being the target, diabetes being the fertilizer for the mental illness, the brain disease, the heart disease, the lung disease, the obesity epidemic, we got 20, you know, we got 20 people in the live. We'll have, you know, 300 to 500 over the next day or two. So it comes down to, now, largely some of it is my fault with, you know, not being able to be consistent with timing and some of those other things, but a lot of it is priority. So it comes down to us to not only be able to fund the research and do the research, but we got to propagate the research. We got to be able to put this stuff out.
My name is Minister Inky. I am the naturopathic doctor and the spokesman for the Melanin vs. Diabetes Ministry. Every time you go to the supermarket without the electrician grocery shopping list, it's like putting a loaded gun to your head. Stop playing Russian roulette with your life. Help us make America great again. Learn how to save time. Learn how to save money. with the electrician grocery shopping list on Amazon now. Go to Amazon now. The life you save may be your own. Right? Cam and Mace got beef with Gilbert Arenas. Right? We talk about Cam and Mace having beef with Gilbert Arenas. You know, it's 2,000 people lined up to hear that conversation. 1,900 of those people are on medication. Right? So we got to get to the science. We got to be aggressive about this too. We got to be aggressive about this, right? And I'm gonna show you exactly what I mean. ACTN3 protein is a structural protein that interacts with actin, a key protein that produces muscle. The ACTN3 gene is primarily expressed in skeletal muscle tissue, specifically in type 2 or fast twitch muscle fibers. Now, you see this? We ain't got to go nowhere. We ain't have to go nowhere to examine whether what we're talking about is reality or not. Right? But this is the ugly reality that people don't want to understand. This is where we've all been wrong at. And a lot of us have just been wrong simply because we've been repeating what our elders have said. Right? Diabetes, type 2 diabetes, that's just diet and lifestyle. Right? If you understand the racial, right? If you understand the racial description that came down over the years about black people in America, what's the racial description? One of the derogatory, one of the most highly repeated derogatory, right, about black folks? They're lazy. Lazy, right? So this is a scientific way to word the same sentiment. When you say type 2 diabetes is a black problem, but it's not a real thing, it's just diet and lifestyle. It's just diet and lifestyle. So basically, you're saying black people are lazy. It's just diet and lifestyle, right? Either you're saying they're lazy or you're saying they're purposely committing suicide, right? They're choosing to have not just diabetes, but to die because of it, from the cancer, the heart disease, the brain disease, all of the things that come with it, right? Even when Apple did their movie series on Alzheimer's, it was, I think Samuel Jackson was the star of, and now Alzheimer's is, called type 3 diabetes, right? So it's another way to repeat that, and to combat that, we've had
naturopathic and holistic scholars to come along and say, no, there's actually no proof that there is a gene for type 2 diabetes, and a lot of us repeated it, but if we begin to pry, there is not a gene for type 2 diabetes. That is a fact. But there are sets of genes. There are sets of genes that Black people, per se, equatorial haplotypes, per se, have at a higher, we express at a higher rate than other groups of people, right? And type 2B, fast twitch muscle, just the development of type 2B fast twitch muscle is one of them. And then the quality of that type 2B fast twitch muscle is unique also. So it's two things, right? It's we have more type 2B, right? Because there's more than one type of fast twitch muscle, right? There's 2A and 2B, right? And then it gets even more nuanced, but just on the basics, type 2A and 2B. When you get to type 2B, right? This is what immediately took me back to the story of Osiris, right? Because Osiris is supposed to have blood of fermented fruit sugar, right? The perfect Black. When you find out that Black people express more type 2B fast twitch muscle, and that this type of muscle tissue only uses fermented fruit sugar for energy, the door's open to a conversation. People can interpret it however they want to, but to overlook it would be foolish, right? So when we take it a step further and go, when we realize that it's the muscle tissue that primarily have to dispose of sugar. So now, if we have more of this muscle tissue that's accumulating, that's supposed to be accumulating sugar to burn it off, but we're not feeding the body correctly, and then we're not practicing movement, when we go back to the older traditions, movement was a form of worship. So this is where some forms of martial arts that were not about attacking, they were not about fighting, right? They were about cultivating the spirit. Well, you don't cultivate the spirit, like in the spirit world. You cultivate the spirit through physicality. You cultivate the spirit through the flesh. So it was about movement, right? So even in the Bible, which, most of America is supposed to, that's where the spirituality is supposed to be at in most of Americans. The only way you can communicate with God is through song. So even in the Bible, the way to communicate with God is song and dance. Dance is a form of low resistance endurance training. Dance is a form of low resistance endurance training, right? It's a slow twitch exercise, right? It's a slow twitch exercise. But it's exercise nonetheless. It's built into the framework. It's not built in as exercise, but it's there. It's there. And if you look into the spiritual traditions all over the place, you know, you'll see, like, wait, what are the Sufis doing again? No, just, what are the Sufis doing? Right? And you just go further and you go over to India, and they got a completely different set of ideas, and, you know, but they have certain forms of yoga and some other stuff built into the framework of some of their spiritual systems. And the further you go back, the more physicality was built into, you know, and the sun worship. You know, the more science comes along, the more they're going to realize it wasn't sun worship, it was just health. It was just science all along. It had nothing to do with thinking that there was like a man that lived inside the sun. No. They understood the science. They understood photosynthesis. They discussed it a different way. They discussed it in an anthropomorphized way, but if you see God in the sun and you thank God for all of the food, isn't science saying the same thing as the Bible? Isn't science saying photosynthesis creates all the food on earth? It starts with the sun. No sun, no food. Every way up the food chain is just stuff that eats the stuff below them, but the bottom, the source is photosynthesis. Even in the ocean, the algae perform photosynthesis more efficiently and faster than the land plants. So you can't go to it's the light, right? It's the light. So, you know, there's a historical narrative that supports a lot of the things that we've discarded, and we're working our way back around to those things. When we get into the orthorexia book and the autodidact book, which are very important books, right? And we start to talk about the options when we get deeper. Now, mind you, from book one, right? From book one, we're talking about the different types of pigments beyond melanin. Because I think pigment gets reduced to melanin, and then melanin gets reduced to fifth dimension pineal gland goofballery, right? But when we go beyond that, and we're still in a space where, you know, like me and one of my brothers, architect, like we have this thing that we say amongst us, you know, just, I don't know if he shared the sentiment first and then I concurred, or I shared the sentiment first and then he concurred, but, you know, we both feel the same. Like, this is one of, if not the best time to be alive ever. Like right now. So many things are happening and changing so fast. Like, this is a sweet spot in the history of the world. This is, I mean, even if you're struggling, like saying it's an amazing time to be alive doesn't mean you have mansions and, you know, holes in different area codes. Like, that's, you know, like, it's just a sweet spot, you know, because so many things are being made, you know, it's the information age, and so many things are being made clear, if that's, you know, if that floats your boat. But I know for a fact, because I haven't been on the bestseller list yet. Like, I haven't sold 1 million copies. And people don't understand opsins. Opsins. Opsins are the pigments in your eye that allow you to see. People have no idea what it actually means that we all have those opsins in our skin, no matter what your complexion is. But the darker you are, the more you have. people have not digested that yet. That's so profound. I should be able to write that sentence alone by itself in a book and sell 1 million copies of that. Our skin has eyes. I don't know how to put it in a provocative way. Maybe that our skin has eyes. So I don't know, however you, that in and of itself is so profound and so insane to think of. The pigments that allow you to see are also in your skin. So how are we supposed to take care of our skin again? If our eyes are going bad, right? If our eyes are going bad, we're developing cataracts, macular degeneration, right? What does that mean about our skin? If the same pigments from our eyes are in our skin, what does that mean? And because I'm so dark, who's going to tell me about this? Who's going to teach me how to take care of myself? Maybe it's Maybelline. Maybe it's Maybelline. MAC will do it, right? Or what's the one people go door to door? The ladies, the makeup company, they sell that. I mean, right? So we've got to have these conversations, and then when we think about some of the nuances, some of the things that we see that are right in front of us, like Simone Biles, right? Simone Biles is the greatest gymnast of all times, and that's happening in our lifetime. Like we're seeing a lot of stuff's happening in our lifetime. Greatest gymnast of all time. She's been able to do flips and tucks and somersaults and just not things that she's been able to do things that no other humans have ever been able to do. That's not because she's practiced harder. No, that's a part of it. It's not because she's got amazing coaches. That's part of it. It's because she has the genetics for that. Right? If we look at Chris Bumstead, if you don't know who he is, Chris Bumstead is a super white guy. When I say super white guy, if you ever watch Chris Bumstead and you listen to him talk and how he dresses, and he's a super white guy, right? But I stopped watching bodybuilding. I used to be into bodybuilding, like just the sport of it. I stopped watching it after a while because it got too ridiculous. Chris Bumstead got me back as a fan in the bodybuilding culture. You know what I'm saying? But you can't win, and people say steroids. All of these guys are on steroids, including the guys that die 2 years, 3 years, 5 years into using steroids. Everybody's on steroids in this sport. Steroids, the fact that everybody's on steroids literally means it's an even playing field, right? Now, if you're walking down the beach and you're a regular guy and you're trying to compete for attention for the girls on the beach, that's not an even playing field, because the guys that are on juice, they're going to have the eyeballs. That's not an even playing field, right? But if we're talking about within the sport itself, it's an even playing field. So how do you win 3 years in a row, 4 years in a row, 5 years in a row. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger won 6 years in a row. Lee Haney, I think he won 8 years in a row or 7 years in a row. Ronnie Coleman, 8. You know, how do you win? Like, how do you dominate the sport like that? You gotta have the genetics. You have to have the genetics. It doesn't matter if you eat, 1,000 grams of protein and you worked out this specific way with the super scientific. If you watch these guys, all of these guys I just named, from Arnold Schwarzenegger to Chris Bumstead to Lee Haney to Ronnie Coleman, like if you watch the GOATs of the sport, all of them have had people that know food better teaching them how to improve their diet. None of those niggas have had the best diet. Chris Bumstead be eating from Five Guys burger joint. Floyd Mayweather eats at the Waffle House. No, listen. Floyd Mayweather eats at the Waffle House while training for fights. Floyd Mayweather's at the Waffle House. Michael Jordan ate regular cereal with cow's milk and ate McDonald's while winning the championships. How, like, it's the genetics. So we got to understand this is a much bigger aspect of our life than we think, right? So now, if we go here to the Diabetes Journal, right? Let's go to the Diabetes Journal. Skeletal muscle is a heterogeneous tissue composed of different fiber types. Studies suggest that insulin-mediated glucose metabolism is different between muscle fiber types. Let's stop right there. Let's stop right there. There goes everything I just said in the first 2 sentences. Not only everything I just said, but everything we built our movement around. Right there in the first 2 sentences. Right? If the different muscle fiber tissue metabolizes sugar in different ways, in different races, right? Asians have different muscle fiber combinations than Europeans. Europeans have different muscle fiber combinations than black folks. Black folks have different muscle fiber combinations than Asians. Everybody else is some variation of those 3 major groups. That right there tells you that the reason that we dealing with what we're dealing with is because we have a unique muscle tissue combination and we have zero education on this. And most of us are waiting for someone else to provide us with this education. We hypothesize that differences are due to fiber type specific expression, regulation of insulin signaling elements, and or metabolic enzymes. Full stop once again. Fiber type specific expression, that's genetic. That's genetic. That's coming from your DNA, right? Transcription, translation, expression, right? This is DNA we're talking about now. Regulation of insulin signaling elements. This is also genetic, right? Metabolic enzyme. This is also genetic. The expression of all of this is genetic. Right? So if we say that people are all the same because we have all the same metabolic enzymes, that would be wrong because we have them in different numbers, right? If we say people are the same because we all have the same types of muscle tissue, that would be wrong because we have them in different ratios. I'm sure, if you ever cooked, if you're making a cake and the cake says, add 2 eggs and you add 8 eggs, you do know that those 2 cakes, if every other ingredient is exactly the same, but instead of you adding 1 cup of, 2 eggs with 8 cups of milk, you added 8 eggs with 2 cups of milk, you do realize that that's going to be a vastly different, like that's not going to be the same, even though it's eggs and milk still. The difference in amount, the difference in ratio is going to give you like the outcome is going to be like, you're going to be like, yo, those ain't Rolex diamonds. What you done to that? It's going to be drastically different what your outcome is, right? Pools of type 1 and type 2 fibers were prepared from biopsies of the vastus lateralis muscles from lean, obese, and type 2 diabetic subjects before and after hyperinsulinic euglycemic clamp. Type 1 fibers compared with type 2 fibers have higher protein levels of insulin receptor GLUT4 molecule, hexokinase type 2, glycogen synthase, and pyruvate dehydrogenase, and a lower protein count of AKT2, TBC1 domain family member 4 and 1. In type 1 fibers compared with type 2 fibers, the phosphorylation response to insulin was similar or decreased. Phosphorylation responses to insulin adjusted for protein level were not different between fiber types. Independently of fiber type, insulin signaling was similar or decreased in muscle from type 1 muscle fibers compared with type 2 fibers. Compared or decreased in muscle from patients with type 2 diabetes compared with lean or obese subjects. Sorry. All right, let me rewind that for you. Phosphorylation responses to insulin adjusted for protein level were not different between fiber types. Independently of fiber type, insulin signaling was similar or decreased in muscle from patients with type 2 diabetes compared with lean or obese subjects. We conclude that human type 1 muscle fibers compared with type 2 muscle fibers have a higher glucose handling capacity, but a similar sensitivity for phosphoregulation by insulin. So, if you have more type 1 muscle fiber, and type 1 muscle fibers have a higher glucose handling capacity, chances are your body is going to be able to handle glucose. You're going to be able to handle a lot more glucose, right? With a lot less effort. But if you should have a higher ratio of that type 2 muscle fiber, it's going to take you a lot more effort to be able to process the same amount of sugar. Skeletal muscle is important for whole body insulin stimulated glucose disposal. Let's rewind that. Skeletal muscle is important for whole body insulin stimulated glucose disposal. And skeletal muscle insulin resistance is a common phenotype of obesity and type 2 diabetes. Skeletal muscle is heterogeneous tissue composed of different fiber types, which can be divided according to myosin heavy chain isoform expression. In studies in rodents, it shows that insulin-stimulated glucose uptake in the oxidative type 1 fiber-dominant muscle is higher than in muscle with a higher degree of glycolytic type fibers, right? This is where that conversation, why I say that, Osiris comes into the conversation with the fermented fruit sugar. That's what glycolytic type fibers mean, right? These fibers here don't use oxygen for energy. Well, type 2B, they don't use oxygen at all. Type 2A fibers, they're a mixture of oxidative and glycolytic muscle tissue. So they're about 50-50. But when you get to type 2B muscle fibers, they don't use oxidative processes at all. It's 100% glycolytic, which means fermented fruit sugar, the same thing they were talking about 5,000 years ago in Egypt. Whether this phenomena is due to differences in locomotor activity of individual muscles or a direct consequence of the fiber type composition is largely unknown. In incubated rat muscle, insulin-induced glucose uptake was higher in type 2A compared with type 2X and type 2B fibers, suggesting that insulin-mediated glucose uptake is related to the oxidative capacity of the muscle fiber. I'm going to read that again. Suggesting that insulin-mediated glucose uptake is related to the oxidative capacity of the muscle fiber. In humans, a positive correlation between proportions of type 1 fibers in muscle and whole body insulin sensitivity has been demonstrated. This means that, right here, this means that what I'm telling you, what we have in these books, what we have in all of the books, from Melanin vs. Diabetes books, forget about it, from all the way back from Eat Right for Your, no, before Eat Right for Your Haplotype. If we go back to the early 2000s, right? What was the first book series I had back then? It was Black Gene Ethics. Remember those books? Black Gene Ethics, part 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Right? If we go all the way back then, that's what I'm saying. Depending on when you guys started participating in the movement, you know, there's over 100 books that I've written. You know, only maybe half of those are on Amazon, but we've been putting out books on this stuff since the early 2000s, right? But right there, and this is not, you know, you can take shots at me because I'm from the neighborhood. I have gold teeth. I didn't go to Harvard, right? This is the diabetes journal. This is the top level research in the area of diabetes comes through this journal. And this is what they're saying, right? This is what they're saying. We're literally reading through the journal right now. That's what we're doing. We're reading through the journal right now. That's what this is. From the American Diabetes Association. This is it. You go to diabetesjournals.org, and this is the article, right? Human muscle fiber type, specific insulin signaling, impact of obesity and type 2 diabetes. In humans, a positive correlation between proportions of type 1 fibers in muscle and whole body insulin sensitivity has been demonstrated. This is not a theory. This is science fact. This is not science fiction. This is not pseudoscience. This is not theory. This is science fact, right? And they continue. Furthermore, insulin-stimulated glucose transport in human muscle strips was associated with the relative type 1 fiber content. Thus, it is likely that human type 1 fibers are more important than type 2 fibers for maintaining glucose homeostasis in response to insulin. Indeed, a decreased proportion of type 1 fibers has been found in various insulin-resistant states, such as metabolic syndrome, I might have to grab this book. I might have to grab this article for the next book. Yo, I might have to grab this. I might have to grab this article for the next book. No. I know a lot of y'all started from book one. You know what I'm saying? I know y'all been A1 from day one, but no. This is Jerry Lynn's question, who kind of set off the whole, the whole video. I had a different direction I was going to go in, but we got a brother from Kenya, Nairobi, and it's funny because Kenyans have the highest distribution of the very same gene that this video. So when we're talking about the ACTN3 gene, Kenyans literally have the highest distribution of that gene, of the active form, right? That produces the champion, sprinters and fast twitch sports, so his question kind of, when I seen Nairobi, I was like, oh, this is, this is the creme de la creme right here. And these people from Kenya, they have no idea what's going on with this. You might have a handful of people over there that's interested in the science and they get into it, but largely people from Kenya, they walking around, they got complexes. They think they less than, they're struggling to prove whatever. And they don't realize that they may be walking around with $1 million, or in today's world, $1 billion genetic gifts. $1 million and $1 billion generational health that they just haven't tapped, because they don't know. They have no idea. Right? And people are dying probably over there because we have these tissues, and these tissues can't. So if we pay attention to what we've read so far in the article, right? And these are the things that we're talking about specifically in the generational health, so it's not a roundabout thing. When you get the generational health books, you're going to see we're highlighting these from the books, right? So this is why the question was so timely, right? Pun intended. If you look at what this article is saying, it was random. It's just the first thing that popped up when we searched it on Google, just for an example, to show you how important these books are to have in your house, right? We just clicked on the first thing, the Diabetes of America, their journal, scientific journals, whatever. Let's click on the first one. And what it's saying is, the more type 1 fibers you have, the less your risk factor for type 2. And we know this. We know that in general, everybody gets type 2 diabetes. White folks, Asians, Native Americans, the corporate designation for Native Americans, Indians, you name it, right? And I mean that as Indian people from India, right? But all across the board, South America, type 2 diabetes, across the board, everybody's getting type 2 diabetes. But we know the darker you are, the higher your risk factors, right? And we know the risk factors are disproportionate based on pigment, based on color, right? The same way we know that the risk factors for lupus, autoimmune disease, right? That's a little bit more specific. The darker you are, and then female, right? So anybody can get lupus, but if you're a Black woman, your chances are much higher than anyone else, right? So there are reasons, and people are more frustrated because their auntie or themselves, they might be dealing with these diseases. But if not themselves, somebody that they love is fighting with one of these diseases, and they're told that, they don't know why. We don't know why. Because if we know why, at least we have a starting point to start fighting, right? And so a lot of these things are simply the genetic differences, especially when the statistics tell us that. Black women, lupus. What does that mean? Okay, we gotta start right there. Like, we don't know where to start to figure some of this stuff out. We gotta start right with the facts that we got. Black women get this more than anybody else. So if we look at a human overall and we look at the things that make a person black, let's isolate those things, and then let's look at the things that make a human a woman. Let's put those over here in the bag, right? So we got these sexual reproductive hormones, and then we've got these pigments. Something about the combination of these things together gives you a higher risk for these autoimmune diseases we know of as lupus. Let's just start right there, right? If we look at type 2 diabetes, we look at muscle tissue distribution. It's the only thing that gives you a clear understanding of what we've got on the surface and then what we've got, right? Because in this book, right? In this book, what is that? Page 400 and here we go. Page 490, right? We go into the differences in the mitochondria of Black people and white people. The differences in the mitochondria, the preferences, the difference between cytochrome 1 and cytochrome 2 activity, right? Well, those differences in cytochrome 1 and cytochrome 2 activity play a crucial role in the muscle fiber distribution. Yeah, because there's a preference for cytochrome 2 energy production in white folks, polar haplotypes. Well, they're going to have more oxidative energy production because they're going to have more slow twitch. That's going to produce more heat in the body, right? But the polar body is different than the equatorial body, especially when it comes to energy, because at the equator, you don't need your body to do anything to generate heat. Generating heat's going to kill you. Generating heat's going to kill you. What you need your body to be able to do is to disperse heat. You need your body to be able to stay cool. You need your body to be able to stay cool. You need your blood circulation to be much more efficient in the periphery. Whereas in the polar space, you need your blood circulation to be much more efficient at your core, right around the organs. You need your fat around the organs, right? Because that's going to keep the body warm. It's going to generate heat, right? You need to be able to move long periods of time in the cold and stay warm, right? Because there's a lot of migration going on. Whereas at in the equatorial environments, habitats, that's the word I was looking for, habitat, there's a lot more stability. It's a lot more stability because plants are a primary food source. You don't need to hunt and kill because food is growing everywhere, right? So because the environment is so drastically different, the anatomy has to function drastically different for survival. But now here's the problem. The problem is we don't live in either one of those environments anymore. We don't live in a polar environment. We don't live in an equatorial environment. Nobody does. People that are in poverty do, right? But for the most part, a part of well-developed society is that everyone has shorts, tank tops, sweaters, jackets, right? You have heating, cooling. So everybody has long johns, like everybody has the things that they need externally to modify those things. Right? So now we have bodies that are outdated. Right? Equatorial people have bodies that come from the heat. But now we live in 72 degrees everywhere we go. Inside your apartment, inside your house. Right now, you're listening to this video, it's 72 degrees in your house. If you're a black person, right now, you have your AC set to somewhere around 72, 75 degrees. White folks feel comfortable, a little cooler. Their air conditioners probably somewhere around 68, 69. But everybody's right in that space. And so you go from your house to the car, to the supermarket, to the office, to school, to the gym, wherever you at, the temperature is controlled. The temperature is controlled. All glass blocks UVB light. All glass blocks UVB light. So we live in a highly controlled environment now. We don't live in those environments anymore. So it comes down to the genetics that society is built around. The diet is built around, and that's not us, right? That's not us. If the diet was built around us, there probably wouldn't be any milk in stores, right? If we take, our problems with milk into consideration, that wouldn't be in stores. That would be like a little item that you had to find somewhere. That wouldn't be the staple of. That just wouldn't be a thing. And none of the foods associated, dairy wouldn't be a thing. There probably wouldn't be a dairy industry. Black folks were the primary culture. It wouldn't be a dairy industry. That would be like a side thing. You could still get you some butter, some cheese, some milk, but that wouldn't be, that'd be a side thing. Right? WIC, welfare, those places, they wouldn't force feed your kids those items. Instead, what would probably be the main thing would be like tubers, beans, pulses, but probably tubers, right? Yams, sweet potatoes, that would probably be the thing. All around the world, like that would be you would go into a supermarket and you would see like 10 varieties of yams and sweet potatoes, and that would be the big thing. Right? Just because that's more part of the culture, right? When you go in the supermarket and you see carrots wouldn't be orange. Kids wouldn't think of carrots as orange. That wouldn't be a thing. You still see orange carrots, but that wouldn't be the norm. That wouldn't be the go-to. We wouldn't have Bugs Bunny with orange carrots. Bugs Bunny would have purple carrots. It'd be purple carrots. White potatoes wouldn't be a thing, right? Like just a lot of these things would be different, but they're not. They're not. So you have to learn about these differences and figure out how to take care of yourself differently than what pop culture dictates. So when you're watching the bodybuilder channel and you notice all of these bodybuilder channels, like I swear to God, the craziest thing is I can't see how people Like I can't see how these shows get so much views. I can't see how they get the views. They're all eating the same shit. It's like a day in the life of such and such bodybuilder. Like, oh, everybody wants to know what I eat. How? Why? You're a big, muscly steroid. Like, we know what you eat. We know what you eat. It's chicken breast. It's white rice. It's eggs and oatmeal for breakfast. Like, what are we doing? It's the same thing. And in one pocket, it's important for everybody to learn this science, because these guys with the big muscles, they're demonstrating a very important facet of science. If you eat the same and you do the same thing, you'll have the same type of results. Everybody's results will vary, but for the most part, everybody will have the same type of results. So if you notice, all the bodybuilders, they eat the same. Some small variation, but overall they eat the same. You know, they all got big muscles and low body fat, right? If we were to take all of the type 2 diabetics, guess what? They all eat the same. Yeah, they eat the same and they exercise, they live the same, right? And we take it a step further. If we look at the guys at the top of the bodybuilding universe, they've got a certain type of genetics, all of them. If we look at the folks that are primarily at the highest risk for type 2 diabetes, they got a similar type of genetics. All of them. We just have to take the responsibility for this education of ourselves and our babies out of someone else's hands. It is pouring right now. Let's continue. Thus, it is likely that human type 1 fibers are more important than type 2 fibers for maintaining glucose homeostasis in response to insulin. Indeed, a decreased proportion of type 1 fibers have been found in various insulin-resistant states, such as metabolic syndrome, obesity, type 2 diabetes in some but not all studies, and following bed rest, as well as in tetraplegic patients and subjects with insulin receptor gene mutation. So this is a wide variety of people, but it's showing the same metric, the same statistic, the ratio between the muscle fiber distribution. Mechanisms for fiber type dependent regulation of glucose uptake could involve altered abundance regulation of insulin signaling elements or metabolic enzymes. In rats, insulin receptor content, AKT and GLU4 protein abundance are higher in type 1 compared with type 2 fiber dominant muscles. Furthermore, in rats, AKT phosphorylation under insulin stimulation is highest in type 1 compared with type 2 fiber dominant muscles. Listen. We can go in a whole different direction. Let me show you something.
success, man. Not just on planet Earth, but in the universe.
We make a big statement. We made a big statement in the world of sprinting.
In the heart of the Caribbean lies a nation world-renowned for its music, vibrant culture, and stunning landscape. It's the home of some of the fastest people in the history of the world.
Fraser Price is going to get there. What a performance. Her legacy as one of the all-time greats is surely complete.
I love track and I love, the opportunity that it gives me and the platform.
It's the second fastest time in history. Thompson Hera continues her form.
Today, we journey into the heart of Jamaica, 3 million strong. People here relish life in the fast lane, a place that's undisputedly the sprint capital of the world.
There's less people, listen to this, there's less people in Jamaica, the entire country, than it is people in New York. Do you understand that math? There's less people in New York, there's less people in Jamaica, the country, than there are in people in New York City. Statistically, it's not imaginable that Jamaicans can dominate the World Games and the Olympics without it being genetic. Right? But that's because their culture pushed them into the space where they were able to tap into their genes to find a way to escape poverty. In the same way, in the 70s, we were able to tap into our genes and create a way out of poverty, with the music, right? And that's just a variation, because that same thing has happened multiple times with the rhythm and blues, with the rock and roll, with the jazz, right? We've produced these things and created them just as a means of escape, right? Just as a way to escape poverty, right? But the world over has fallen in love with these things, because although everybody can do them, anybody can learn how to do anything. But again, unless you have the genetics, you're not going to be blessed to do this. It's like the world strongman, right? You got to have genetics to be, 7 feet tall, and like, it's a genetics thing, right? Hold on, let me see if I can find this guy. Let me see if I can find this guy. Hold on, where is this guy? Damn, I cannot find this guy. And it's so funny because he's at the Olympia, but he doesn't compete. What's his name? I think it's Sean something. Damn, I can't find this guy. This shit is crazy though. Hold on, let me see something.
Design, develop, scale, repeat. Wix Studio, the platform for agencies and enterprises.
See that I have two really big monitors on here as well.
Damn, I cannot find this guy.
All right, you guys ready to?
All right, this is not the guy I'm looking for, but this is an example. Hold on. genetics. No, listen, let me tell you. It's not that the United States are deliberately wasting the talent, because it's not about the United States. It's about generational health. It's about, do parents understand that their children are uniquely gifted? See, we've got this message that we've been pumping to the kids about rap. Right? So now every kid is trying to be a rapper or a basketball player because we've told them that they're uniquely gifted at rapping and shooting a ball. So now they're trying to get their kids in those sports. They're making an effort to do that. But most track teams, most schools, they don't even have good funding for track, because it's a thing that nobody pays attention to. But if Black parents knew that they have the same distribution for this gene as the Jamaicans, because the Jamaicans and the Caribbeans and the Black people in America are from the same stock. If Black people in America knew that their children were gifted with this, you have the same way you got Black folk. Listen, do you know what happened to golf after Tiger Woods? Think about what happened to golf before. Think about golf pre-Tiger, post-Tiger. Pre-Tiger Woods, golf was the white folks, like that was old white men. Not even just white folks, it was old white men. Tiger revolutionized golf, not only for Black folks, because once after Tiger Woods, it was over. Black folks start flooding into golf. But not only did Black folks start flooding into golf, we not even paying attention. Golf got way younger. So Tiger revolutionized golf for young people and Black people. Like, oh shit, if he could, I could, and it was over. Black folks was encouraging their kids to start picking up golf clubs young. Like, no, you ain't gotta play football and crash into, bust up your head and all. We ain't got no. We got some, yeah. And you ain't got to be 7 feet tall. You can do this, yeah. We ain't 7 feet tall. It's not in your genes. So let's pick up this golf club and let's figure this thing out right here. You got a lot of folks in the community, they don't even know they fast until we on the internet, on YouTube, there's a thing where people make clips of guys in the neighborhood outrunning police, on foot. Look, police can't catch, and they all kind of jokes. And what are we doing? These niggas got $1 million, $1 billion fast twitch. Like, it's just not something that people are aware of to even get behind. We know that we could get an education and get even if we don't make it to football in the NFL, even if we don't make it to to basketball in the NBA, we know we can at least make it through, get out of the neighborhood, get a decent education, find us a little gig somewhere, we'd be all right. Our sport, football or basketball, will get us out of the hood, right? The same way you got the Dominicans, the Cubans, Puerto Rico, they see baseball, I'm up out of here, right? The Mexicans, the Africans, they look at soccer or their international football, we just haven't recognized in America that, we can run. Like, forget balls altogether. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't even need a ball or a stick or any of that. We could just run. Like, we can run. We ain't got to jump. We ain't got to dunk. We ain't got to have no other skill set. We could just run. We got the same. We just don't know it. Yeah, we just don't know it. You know what I'm saying? So, but the people that learn it, they keeping it a secret. They not sharing it because they don't want everybody to bum rush and then mess up their child or their grandchildren opportunity. Right? So realizing some of these things, right? They do certain things that keep you out of the game, right? So with basketball, if you're not coming from a basketball family, somebody got to sell some crack. Somebody got to be a dope boy. Yeah, you're going to have a drug deal. Either you're going to have a drug dealer in the family, or you're going to have a drug dealer in the neighborhood that's going to get you to where you need to go, right? Because in order for you to get the skill sets and the networking that you need to make it to the NBA, because it's not just about raw talent. You got to have nurturing, and then you got to have the networking, right? Because they're watching kids are coming to the NBA since they're in elementary, middle school, right? They're watching these kids already. They already know who's coming to the NBA or not. So in order to be in those places, you got to put it, to go to some of these summer basketball camps is $20,000, $50,000. Like, the money is crazy to get your kids in these places, or to get your kid in a certain type of school for basketball where they're going to be seen and be recognized. And the money is crazy you got to put into these sports. It's insane, right? So that's a way of keeping it in-house, because athlete families, they got that money and they already got the network. So even if they don't have the money, like their family fall on hard times, all they got to do is keep working. They know the skills. They just got to keep working with their kid, nurturing the gift. And when it's time, well, their kid can get a scholarship because they're going to know who to call. No, I'm going to put you with my old coach from my alma mater. And, you know, you ain't going to get them opportunities just coming out the neighborhood because you're amazingly talented. No, you're going to wind up falling to the wayside. You got to have, you know, so they keep the door closed shut behind them. You know, like, people don't, you know, we step on each other's shoulders and we step on each other's heads to get in the door and then close the door behind us. You know, that's what we do. You know, crabs in the barrel shit. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times we think of crab in the barrel as the person trying to pull you down. We don't think of crab in the barrel as the person that's willing to step down on you to climb out of the barrel. Right? We don't think about that. Who's, you know, which one is more of a slime? Like, we don't really think about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to realize that all these things are real. Right? So if we learn these things, like, that's wide open. Sprinting is wide open. Using our mind, not only is sprinting wide open, but chess is wide open. There's mad spots available for like scholarships on chess teams and shit like that. We ain't putting our kids over there. Why not? Mess with chess. You know what I'm saying? Your child may not have the genes for it, but your child may have a crazy ability to focus. That's really all the nerd kids have. Nerd kids just have the super ability to focus. Now, whatever they like is the thing they'll focus in on, but they have the super ability to focus. So people like, Inky, you, like as I was growing up, people were like, yo, how do you read like that? Oh no, I like it. Well, until later I realized, okay, well, I have something's different. I can, I can tap into something in reverse. Now I can write. I can hyper focus on, The downside to what I got going on with me is the way my mind works is beautiful with the things that people are interested that come from it. But when people, they're like, yo, you're not paying attention to this. You're not paying attention to that. Well, that's the downside to how my mind works. I can hyper focus in on some shit, but in that hyper focus, I may get more done in this specific area that's right in here. But all this shit that's outside here, oh my goodness. Attention starved. Attention starved. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm focused on this. So everything outside of this is gonna, right? So everything has ups and downs. Just nothing is everything has a good size, bad size. It's just learning what it is that you got. And, having parents that are willing to put money and time into that thing, fertilize that. So you could be the next Floyd Mayweather. You know what I'm saying? We don't have a Floyd Mayweather. Michael Jordan had the genes. He's an exception. You know what I'm saying? But if we look at Kobe, you know what I'm saying? Kobe is Michael's twin. As much as we can say, oh, Kobe learned everything from Mike. Kobe styled himself after Mike. Kobe learned everything from his father. You know what I'm saying? Like it's genetics. Right? So I'm just saying back to us, right? We're looking at this. These diseases are genetics. And if we learn these things, we can minimize our weaknesses and maximize our strengths, right? This is why we have this book series, right? That's why you gotta have these books in your house, right? Generational health. Intracellular glucose metabolism could also be different between muscle fiber types. Intracellular glucose metabolism. Glucose entering the muscle cell is initially phosphorylated by hexokinase and predominantly stored as glycogen. Glycogen is human starch. Right? That's the easiest way to understand what glycogen is versus glucose. Right? Glucose. So plants have cellulose, right? Plant starch is fiber. Largely, we can't really digest it. It's fiber. Some of it we can, right? But some of it we can't, right? So the fiber, the starch that we can digest, we've had folks in the past like Dr. Sebi who've told us it's no good for us, right? But that's because there was a lot that Sebi didn't know. Sebi was a genius in his space and in his time, right? But if we understand how the body works, starches can be phenomenal for us. Right? Starches can be phenomenal for us. And starches are phenomenal. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a hold on. I just seen this. I have a question actually too. When we go down the route to these genetic studies, are we opening the door for people in the upper up to use eugenics against us? Also, can you debate Dr. Berg? I don't know. I don't understand your question of can I debate Dr. Berg? Right. If your question is, do I have a contact so that I could like reach out to him and set up a debate? The answer would be no. I don't know how to contact Dr. Berg. If you're asking, can I wash Dr. Berg? Come on. The answer would be, of course, Dr. Berg is not, he wouldn't be ready, right? But I know his work though, you know, some of it is, you know, some of it I respect, you know what I'm saying? I definitely respect his consistency. But if you're talking about the first part of your first question, the people in the upper up using eugenics against us, what I'm saying is this, right? Now, I'm glad you asked the question because that means you and maybe many people who listen that don't really buy the books yet and like they just on a surface level with it, you know, what I would say is if you understand the movement, Melanin versus Diabetes, Dr. Inky, everything that we represent, everything I represent, it's because genetics are already being used against us. I don't think you even in this video specifically, like, and what I'm saying is that it doesn't have to be a conspiracy for that to happen. It doesn't have to be like a Nazi plot to like, no, it's just the differences, right? And that's why I was talking about the supermarkets would even be different if this was our society. Think about affluent cities and neighborhoods in Africa, right? Just think about them. If you've never seen them, you probably got to check out some online, right? Look online and you'll check some out. You know, I haven't been to any, but I've seen them, you know. If you look at what those markets look like, they will remind you more of what farmers markets look like here in the States. So depending on where you at, in the South, a lot of times they have them year round, or Southern California, but in the North, like New York, Detroit, Chicago, whatever, in the cold spots, it's only in the summertime. They'll have like these little pop-up farmers markets that might be there for the weekend or a week or whatever the case may be, right? But it's an open market with fresh food, right? Even meat is there, but it's all fresh. It's like the farmer who raises that animal for livestock is there with animals that him and his kids just killed. You know, if the farmer's market is Friday to Sunday, they just killed them animals maybe Monday or Tuesday, skinned them, cleaned them, did whatever process they had to. And so now these are fresh, you know, chicken, cow, whatever, you know. The vegetables are all pulled out of the ground by the person that's standing at that booth. You know, the fruit picked off the trees by the person, they family, they employees, whatever, at that booth. Like, our supermarkets would look a lot more like that year round if this was a brown or black country, just because that's traditionally what our thing looks like. And in those spaces, if you notice, just like if you go back, like I've had debates where I had to show the records of bone and hair and all kinds of other stuff to show, no, traditionally we ate mostly plants. You know, there's some fish and some animal mixed in, but 90% of the food was vegetables, fruits, right? Plant-based, right? If you look at a farmer's market today, 90% of what's in the farmer's market is plants. You got animal there, but it takes so much more to cultivate animals and keep them healthy and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. It's just never going to be the same as apples. Apples grow regardless. The apples don't need human help to grow. Berries don't need human help to grow. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of these things will grow with us or without us. Like, they're going to grow. So it's going to be more of an abundance. So that's what would be primarily what we would have there, you know, and it wouldn't be necessarily the monopolies that exist today, because you wouldn't have the ability to have, say, like a Kraft macaroni and cheese in every store, supermarket, and grocery, like across the whole country. Like, that wouldn't exist, because again, you would have the fresh stuff. So the stuff that's in, and you wouldn't have similarity. You wouldn't have so much duplication, right? Because the food that grows in New York may not be the same as what grows in Florida. May not be the same as what grows in Arizona or Northern California. Now, there'll be some overlap, but there'll be a lot of stuff that's just different, especially different times of the year, right? So the supermarkets would look that way, right? So, but no, what I'm saying is that directly or indirectly, our genetics are used again, are crippling us, because the hospitals are not geared around us. We haven't, our quote unquote billionaires haven't done anything. And it's primarily the people's fault, right? Because, you know, we would gladly put our money into a J. Cole or Kendrick, right? Like, if we ask John Q. Public, who has done more for Black people in America, Dr. Inky or Kendrick Lamar? 90% of the people are going to say Kendrick Lamar. If we start laying out our resume side by side, we'll be like, well, damn, Kendrick Lamar ain't shit compared to Dr. Inky. Like, what? This ain't even close. But it's how society is wired, right? An artist can postulate and posture himself like, oh, I'm one of the people. But no, you're there to service the entertainment group of the people. So as we're struggling to get things actually done and build schools and health clinics and do those things out of pocket, you get to posture as if you're one of those people and tuck away 100, 150 million and do nothing. Never build any clinics or daycares or schools or hospitals. So because our hospitals that we go to are not funded by us for us, we don't have the research compiled, because we don't pay Dr. Inkies to do this work in mass for the people, right? So we go to other folks' hospitals, whether these are Jewish hospitals, German hospitals. Chinese people have more infrastructure in America than we have. The facts. If you go into the neighborhoods, like in the hoods, like if you go in the Bronx, Spanish people have more infrastructures there than Black folks, right? The grocery stores, the taxi cab bases, the hair salons. We're not doing the things we need to be doing. So there's a point where we could say, yeah, there may be some conspiracy stuff to it, but no, it's not it. Like, literally, look, I'm showing right now, right? Right now, this is what I'm saying. Look, I can give you a prime example. Right now, this is on Amazon. This entire series right here is on Amazon. To teach this information to our babies. How many people watching this video right now have already ordered this? This will answer your question right now. How many people that are watching this video already have these 5 books at their house? See, there's a difference between talking it and living it. So we can't say the powers that be and this and that, because they're not limiting us. They're not the limiting factor. Our ability to prioritize what it is that we're doing out here is the limiting factor now. The information is right there. The information is right there. How many people already have these 5 books already? And not in the world of the people that will watch this video. By another 2 days, there's going to be 500 people that watch this video. Of that 500 people, how many people you think will have these 5 books already in their house? But of those 500 people, how many of them you think will complain about the medical system? How many of that 500 people you think will complain about the educational system? Oh, the educational system is not teaching our babies about us. You know, history is not about us. Science is not about us. You know, how many? How many niggas running around singing not like us? Yeah, they not like us. You know, the Kendrick shit. How many niggas running around singing that but don't know what they're saying? Not like us in what way? Because we lead in every statistical category for death. The cancers, the metabolic diseases, we lead in all of them. So when you say not like us, what you mean by that? To me, that song is just as annoying for me as when India Arie put out her song, I Am Not My Hair, I Am Not My Skin. I'm like, that is the stupidest thing somebody could ever say, especially as a Black woman. Because science has already told us that we literally are our skin. Humans develop from 3 layers of skin. So scientifically, we are definitely our skin. Just if we want to be science, the endoderm, the mesoderm, the ectoderm, those are 3 layers of tissue, skin, that our entire body develops from. So to say not like us and do the gang shit and, you know, like, I'm like, this is the dumbest shit I ever heard of. This is a mockery. So it's not a matter of some powers that be somewhere. It's us. We're the limiting factor. If we buy our kids more video games than books, we are the limiting factor. If we buy our kids more sets of Jordans, then we got to stop the birds and the bees and work on the atoms and the genes, right? So we are the limiting factor. So what I'm saying is our genetics is being used against us directly or indirectly because of the ignorance. The popular diet, the foods in the supermarkets and the restaurants is not, it's not based around us. Black people primarily eat slave food, right? Slave food that we've adopted and turned it into soul food, but it's really slave food, right? Scraps that we turned into tradition from poverty, right? So it's that. And then what else do we eat? We eat Italian, we eat Chinese, we eat Irish, right? The things that we typically eat, like not a part of poverty and slavery, have been reduced to icons of poverty and slavery, so we're ashamed of them. Right? We're ashamed to eat beans, even though that's the most nutritious thing for us. We're ashamed to eat yams, even though that's the most nutritious thing for us. We're ashamed to eat watermelons, even though that's the most nutritious thing for us. most countries where sea moss grows in abundance, people think it's trash. So they're ashamed of it. They kill it off like weeds. They get rid of it, even though that's the most nutritious thing for us. They literally is built into the pyramids. Like it's literally built into the pyramids. It's the actual algae, the diatomaceous earth that are part of that stone, those stones, and like that comes from algae. Like they're like, oh, ain't no the Egyptians didn't talk about no sea moss, nigga. What? I'm like, nigga, do you realize that they put all their sciences in the pyramids for us to find out later? So for me, the fact that algae is literally a part of the fabric of the pyramids, I'm like, are you kidding, nigga? But I put all this information in the books. How many books we got? Now here goes the ones for the babies. We need something for the babies. Okay, here go the books for the babies so we can communicate, teach us something. How many people do reading with their kids? Not out of everybody in the world. Forget everybody else. I'm talking about out of the 400 to 500 people that are going to see this book, this video here. Not Dr. Inky videos, this video here. By the time 2 days rolls around, there'll be 400 or 500 people that have watched this video. Of that 500 people, how many people read to their children as a parent and read to their parents as a child? How many of us are doing that? See, that's the limiting factor. We're supposed to be buying these books and reading these shits to our elders. We're supposed to be buying these books and reading them with our kids. I write these books. Listen, I write these books. And I buy extra copies. Let me send this one to my... Oh, damn. The neighbor hooked me up with, I needed this. He came through. I'm going to get this book for him because I know that he needs the information in this specific book. And then I'm going to make some time to go stop by his house and we're going to flip through that book together. Because I know they don't know the value of the book. So I'm going to go flip through the pages of the book to show them what's in the book. They're going to go, oh, what? That's in this book? Man, I've been looking to find out because I needed this for my... Because right now I'm dealing with, and you had this in this book this whole time. Yeah. They've been saying forever, for 400 years, if you want to hide something from black folks, put it in a book. So we can't say the upper, it's us. And it starts with the books, believe it or not, because before we can pool our money to putting it into hospitals and daycares and things like that, we have to first understand the value of why that's not a luxury, but a necessity. If we don't have the knowledge, we won't understand why we can't just keep doing what we've been doing. Even though to keep doing what you've been doing and expect different results is insanity. So if we don't realize that if we keep eating the popular culture food, the popular culture way, and going to the hospital, we're always going to be at the tail end of health. Because we are the least addressed by the pop culture. Because in America, we're only 13% of this country. And a large part of that 13% is indigent. A lot of them in jail, a lot of them, So less than 10% of this population is us. And we haven't learned, like the Jewish people, to pool our money when our numbers are small and facilitate what we need for ourselves. because we don't have reading material that teaches us the value. Now we have the reading material, so it's just a matter of me and you letting people know, hey, we got the reading material here. You might have to buy one for your, get them started. You might have to buy one for them, buy one for you, buy one for somebody else, get them started. But once they learn there's a reading, there's more, you got more of these? Oh, what? Yes, we loaded. You can't even read all these books. By the time it's gonna be, like, the knowledge is infinite. We got it. It's here. But that has to happen first. The knowledge, then comes the wisdom and the understanding of that's where the priority comes in at. But the knowledge got to be first. And then we go, oh, I get it. This is why we need our own food. This is why we got to have, okay. This ain't about no farming thing, because we keep running in circles with the same goofy ideas. Oh, we got to get our own, we got to grow our own food. No, we don't. We don't. We do not need to grow our own food. Growing our food would be a plus, but we don't need to grow our own food because everything that we would grow is already grown. Everything that we need is already at the supermarket. It's already there. It's just we need a spot where things are arranged differently. We don't need 90% of the supermarket to be covered with poison. We need 90% of the supermarket to focus on the shit that we need. And we need more variety of that. But the reason why there's not more variety of that, we don't see purple carrots there. Carrots in the supermarkets in a tiny little space. Orange carrots, and the carrots be looking toe up. Why we don't have purple carrots and black carrots, like really rich, the super rich carrots? Why we don't have like big sections of but our kids, they getting thick. The glasses is getting thicker and thicker and thicker because we don't understand. We don't understand. We need at least a minimum of 10,000 micrograms of vitamin A every day, or we're going to need glasses. 10,000 micrograms. Not Frosty Flakes said it's fortified cereal, so it's got something. No, it's got vitamins and all that is in there. Vitamins and all that. That's the shit it got all the vitamins and all that up in there. And I be getting them, the Flintstone, the one a day. Yeah, we got all that. Yeah, we on that vitamin. We on them vitamins. You on what vitamins, nigga? You don't know nothing about we just saying things that are cliche, and we're not spending any time to figure out like what you taking vitamin C? Yeah, I'm taking vitamin. What kind of vitamin C? What kind of vitamin C? Ascorbic acid is not exactly vitamin C. That's not vitamin C, to be honest. So when you look in the ingredients, it says ascorbic acid. That's some corporate shit. That's a corporate agreement, whereas because ascorbic acid is a part of the vitamin C complex, it's legal to put on the package that the item contains vitamin C because it has ascorbic acid in there. But ascorbic acid is not vitamin C. It's not. If you get vitamin D3 and it's animal based, it's very different than vitamin D3 that's plant based. But there's very few sources of vitamin D. That's vitamin D3 that's plant based. Vitamin A, if it's synthetic, it could be toxic. If it's animal based, it functions differently than it's plant based. Right? You didn't know. Most people don't even know that. When I talk about vitamin A, I say, this animal vitamin A versus, because you got these guys on the internet that's into eating raw meat. So they be like, oh yeah, no, liver is a real good source of vitamin A. It is. It's a great source of what's called preformed vitamin A. Oh, no, excuse me. Yeah, preformed vitamin A. because the vitamin A is already made by the animal that you're eating, right? But then there's pro. It's pre versus pro. The plant-based is the pro, so your body metabolizes it, builds it, utilizes it in 1,000 different, like, the animal versus the plant source, totally different. Which one you need? The darker your skin, the more options you have. Options are the pigments in your eyes that allow you to see. The darker your skin, you have more of those options in your skin. So not only do you need the 10K a day just for your eyes, you need 5,000 for each eye. How much you need for your skin if you dark like me? But see, the people that put together the recommended daily allowance of food or vitamins, they not dark like me, so they don't care. They just putting in what they need, what they babies need, and that's that. They're going about their business because that's the amount that they're going to function optimally healthy at. And that is great for them. But that, me and you, how much we need? Who figures that out? Who puts the time and the money into that? More niggas is going to throw money in the air at the strip club tonight than are going to invest in these books for their kids. More niggas tonight are going to buy weed to smoke than they're going to buy these books to talk these conversations with their kids. More niggas tonight are going to pop bottles, liquor, than they're going to put to these books right here. Ain't no white man making us, ain't no super Illuminati causing us to do that. Just nigga shit. Priorities. You can say, well, because they don't know any better. All right, cool. Well, then I'll reduce it to the 500 people that will watch this video. Out of the 500 people that watch this video, how many are going to immediately go, I need this to teach my babies? How many are going to immediately go right to Amazon and put all 5 of them in their cart? Boop, I got to have all of them. They can't make an excuse and say, well, Dr. Inky, you know, it take a long time to ship. Nigga, I'm not shipping those. That's Amazon. What you talking about now? What's the excuse? You don't know that the education is not geared to us? Or you don't know that the science, the food, the hospitals, and the supermarkets not geared to us? Which one you don't know already? You know all this shit already. What we doing about it is the only question. Yeah. Listen, I was in Harlem. I lived on 115th Street between 7th and 8th Avenue when the Africans came. When the Africans started coming over, and I had tight, because at the time I was doing some different things, and, you know, I was spending a lot of money in those OJ services. So that's where the whole OJ service blew up. If you don't know about OJ services, let me tell you what OJ services was. OJ services was the Africans. Okay, the Africans came over here, and I don't know where they got these ideas from, to be honest. But they had the idea to open up cab bases, taxi cabs, right? This is before Uber and all of that. They had in fact, Uber and these companies put these types of companies out of business. So even these ideas are the shit we support. We don't understand that the things we do support means that our dollars are not going over here, right? So if we put our dollar here, that dollar did not go this way. So anyway, The Africans came here and they had these ideas to open up taxi cab spots. But instead of having regular cars, they got whatever was the luxury fly new shit, right? And they'll charge you like double the price. That's it. Not insane, just double the regular price. So, for instance, you could call up a regular taxi cab and they would send like a Taurus or a Lincoln, you know, and maybe wherever you going, it'll cost $15, right? To get from wherever you're going, A to B, right? Just an example, right? You could call the OJ, right? And instead of $15, it'd be $30. But instead of riding in a Lincoln or a Taurus, you would be riding in the brand new Range Rover, the brand new Mercedes Benz, the brand new Escalade. Bro, they came over here and cleaned up because everybody, you know, you couldn't own one of these cars, but you could feel good because you could get, you know, you could ride in them and you could ride in all of them. You know what I'm saying? Because it ain't nothing. You know what I'm saying? They regular taxis. It ain't no minimum to it either. When they first started, there was no minimum. You could be going on a $6 cab trip around the corner to the supermarket. They're going to come pick you up. They're going to charge you $12 for the $6 ride, but they coming to pick you up. Wherever you at, in the projects, at the supermarket, the trap, getting off of work, 42nd Street, wherever you at, they're going to come pick you up. It don't matter what you got going on. They're coming to pick you up and they just going to charge you double whatever it is. And they blew up. It was amazing. You know what I'm saying? So I had a lot of friends that was African guys because they started right there on, I think the first base that they had, was on like 135th Street. And then the second base they had, which grew to be the main base, was on 116th Street, was on my block. Yeah. So I had, you know, I was able to talk to them, and then they put the restaurants right there. So I was able to build with them and learn a lot of stuff firsthand about the culture, you know, and they had the restaurants there. I would eat a lot of stuff in the restaurant. You know, I would eat in the restaurants all the time, eat the food from Africa, fresh, you know what I'm saying? Listen to stories about these niggas putting diamonds up their butt and all kind of crazy stuff, you know what I'm saying, to get over here with a few dollars and start their life. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But that's what they was on. They'd take a risk and do something illegal, but that's to fund their legal life, not us, where we're take risk to do illegal shit just for the hell of it and make a life out of being a criminal. That's the difference between other people. And we'd be like, yo, the Kennedys did their crime, and this person did, this group of people did their crime, and the Irish folks, they had the this and the liquor stuff and this, and the Italians. And, yeah, but everybody was doing the crime to fund their legal life. We don't get this concept of funding the real shit. We don't get that. We're funding sneakers. We're funding strip clubs. We're not getting this, you know, funding the real, like we're not there yet. So that's our problem. We don't have anybody else to blame for that but us, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is a us thing. That is a us thing. And look at the video numbers. Since I started talking about us to blame, a few niggas stopped watching. Yo, I'm dead. This is crazy. Niggas done really like, yo.
Health is your real wealth. You know, that's what we talk about. So even like the Mayweather boxing fitness gyms that I have, you know, around the country as well as around the world, we just truly believe in health is your wealth. We want you working out. We're nobody's going to be here forever, but while we're here, we only have one body, we only have one temple, so we have to take care of our bodies, and that's what I'm doing. If I'm not going to invest in anything, I'm going to invest and myself. You know, health is your real wealth. So I got to make sure that I'm staying in good condition, in good shape.
Go to Amazon now. Get the generational health curriculum for you and your family.